The Spyderco Smock first hit the scene in 2018 in the mid-year catalog update. And since then, it's pretty much fallen into one of two categories. Really liked or not liked at all. So in this video, we're going to go over it and we're going to decide whether or not you may or may not like it and if you should get it, if you can find it in stock. The Smock comes in at an overall length of 7.92 inches. It has a blade length of 3.39 inches. The blade material is CPM S30V, and the blade style is a modified Warncliffe. It has a blade grind that is hollow, and the finish is a satin finish. The hander material is a carbon fiber G10 composite. The lock type is a compression lock. We'll talk more about that in a second. And it's designed by Kevin Smock, and it is made in the Taichung factory in Taiwan. The Spyderco Smock is named after Kevin Smock. He is the designer of the SK23, which is what this knife was, again, modeled after. Normally, the Smock comes in S30V with this carbon fiber laminate handle material, but there have been a few exclusives out there. So Blade HQ has two exclusives in M4. One of them is in a satin finish, and one of them is a Thai CN finish as well. And they have their patented, not patented, but trademark natural G10 scales. Those are pretty hard to come by because they were an exclusive run. I don't think they're gonna restock those anytime soon. The next one actually comes from DLT Trading. It is a, I believe, M390 blade with red G10. And then the last one is from Knife Joy. It's in 20 CV and it actually has a polished like so smooth G10 handles. So as far as variety of smocks, it's not on the level of a paramilitary 2 where there's like 1,000 versions of it, but there are some out there. I don't know if there's gonna be any more anytime soon, but if you can get a hand on one of those, I say go for it. Those are all great blade materials and handles, but if you can also just find the regular S30V version, I say go for that as well because they're kind of hard to find, which is a talking point of this knife isn't in stock super duper often, but when it does come in stock, they get a lot of it in at multiple retailers, and it's a really good opportunity to get one, try it out if you have never done that before. So what's fun about this knife is that it's actually just super fidgety, right? So it has a button lock. It is the only Spyderco manufactured by Spyderco with a button lock on a compression lock. Now, outside of that, this company called Blades We Love, they actually make, it's called a PM2 Ultra, which is where they take left-handed PM2s and they put a button on it. So you have the button lock fidgetability of a Smock, but it's on a PM2, and there's nowhere else you're gonna find that. Spyderco doesn't do that, and as far as I'm aware of, Blades We Love is the only place that will put a button lock on that. So the button lock, compression lock, it's because you get the amazing locking of a compression lock, so there's nothing sacrificed there when you have this knife, but you get the ease of closing with a button, and it makes it super fun to play with. It makes it super fidgety, and you can open it, you can finger flick it, you can flip it with the flipper tab, but the button lock, I think, is something that Spyderco should consider putting on more of their compression lock line knives. So moving on from there, we have the flipper tab. I am not a huge fan of flipping knives, flipper knives, mainly because you would normally have a knife that has just something sticking out the side of it. So I don't know, I'm just not a huge fan of it, but what is great about the Smock, and there are many other knives like this out there, right, that had the same kind of design philosophy, like Vero Engineering, EMP EDC. It's the flipper tab is just in the shape of the the knife itself. So it gives like almost a full rectangle shape to it. where it just sticks right there, and it's not obtrusive. It doesn't look like a dolphin fin, right? So it's just really easy to flip open. It's really easy to close. And it's just, the fidget factor on this knife is very high. And if that's something you like, that's a good reason to get this knife. But it also just opens really well that way. But it has the trademark Spidey hole, which you can flick. You can flick it all types of ways. You can thumb flick it. You can middle finger flick it. So yeah, I think like from a fidget factor standpoint, this is a really cool knife. I think the flipper tab's great. It's one of my favorite styles of flipper designs. And so if you are, hunting for something different in that regard with a flipper, definitely another reason to check this knife out. Now, getting into things I don't necessarily like about this knife, the ergonomics it's kind of weird. You can kind of see that, it's just, I don't know. Like, I don't know if this is a finger choil or a sharpening choil or what, but my finger naturally does want to go right here, and I want to put it right there, but there's a little bit of a, blade issue there, where if I'm not careful, I could hurt myself, right? I could cut myself. So I don't know if that was, it's hard to tell if this is designed as a finger choil or not. I would almost rather have seen it kind of be brought back a little bit more into this part of the knife. But with my middle finger, I can wrap around really well right there. And so I can still get really good purchase on it. It has some jimping right here in the spine. It's big jimping, bigger than what I'm used to on Spydercos in general, but it doesn't hurt. It doesn't bother me. It's just kind of like my index finger just doesn't know where to go. So I mean, but at the end of the day, it doesn't bother me to the point where I don't think this is a usable knife, right? I still think it's great. I still think it's fun. It has a fun factor to it. But I wouldn't trust, my safety of this finger to like really hard cutting tasks, because it's going to want to go right here. And I'm just very concerned with how the cutting edge is right there as well. Another thing I don't necessarily like about it are the scales. They're this carbon fiber G10 laminate composite. It's a lot of words. It's fine. It's got a little bit of texturing to it. Luckily though, you can find a lot of great aftermarket scales from places like Sharp Dressed Knives, Rips Garage Tech. They make scales for the Smock. I know Sharp Dressed Knives has really cool, burlap and marbled carbon fiber and stuff like that. So if you have one of these and you want to dress it up a little bit better, definitely worth checking them out. And then even the pocket clip, it just sits a little high. Again, this is, first world knife buyer problems, right? Like, it's not deep carry. It's very nitpicky. At the end of the day, it still fits in the pocket well. It is not obtrusive in the pocket. It's slim, but it just sticks out, a decent amount. So you have about this much that it sticks out, and it can be a lot, so you can go buy, again, aftermarket clips from Lynch. I'm sure has something from MXG Gear. They have pocket clips for this knife. And I'm pretty sure it just takes a normal paramilitary 2 style pocket clip. But as far as that's concerned, I do really like this knife. There's not much else I dislike about it. One of the other things I do like a lot is actually the hollow grind. I don't have many hollow ground knives, and so I think it's just really cool to look at. And just like, it's just a cool detail in the design of this knife. Going back to the blade itself too, it's a modified Wharncliffe, which, like, I have a lot of thoughts and opinions that I'll share maybe one day of how people label blade shapes, either sheep's foot or Wharncliffe. I feel like there's just kind of like we'll just call it this, when it's really not, just attitude about that. Again, that's a soapbox for another day, but I would say, it's kind of in that modified Wharncliffe. A Wharncliffe is a more gradual, I would say, curve on the top. This one is, I would say, almost borderline reverse Tonto, right? Because it's just a very acute angle. Like, it just cuts right there in the sense of, you know, you have spine, 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 and then boom, it goes down. So I get where they would call it a modified Wharncliffe, but you could also make an argument for reverse Tonto. So overall, do I think you should buy this knife? Yeah, sure, if you can find it. It's really fun. I think it's worth checking out. You might not like it, and that's okay. The great thing about buying knives is that there are a lot of great communities that you can go sell knives, like the Millie PM2 Para 3 Club on Facebook. It's a great place to buy and sell knives. You could probably pick a Smock up there if you really wanted to, just checking out the buy, sell, trade thread every day. But I think if you can find it in your favorite retail store and you want to support them, I say go for it. I don't think it'll hurt buying this knife unless you hurt yourself with the knife. And that it's worth checking out. It's worth saying that you have handled one. It's just fun to play with. You can flick it, you can close it, you can flick it and close it for hours if you really wanted to. And so, yeah, I think this knife is really great. It has great acoustics, and you should check it out. So I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. If you are interested in subscribing, hit the link down below, give it a like if you liked it, and we'll see you in the next video.